First of all, I would like to thank the organizing committee for giving us the opportunity to present our work on the virtual reality dissemination experience about Sant'Agata Chapel in Pisa. During recent years, the application of virtual reality for cultural heritage has increased in quality, interactivity, and realism, maximizing the user's satisfaction and the stakeholders' interest. Currently, research is moving in several areas, like the enhancement of museum experiences, reconstructions of works of art and frescoes, and the representation and comparison of different construction phases of architectural heritage, also through the use of serious games. The application of VR for cultural heritage has different objectives, and so each experience needs to be tailored to the specific design of the cultural product to be realized. So the subject is quite complex and encompasses multiple branches of study and potentially different workflows. Each workflow, language, or modeling feature can lead to a different efficacy of the virtual experience. Consistent research on different case studies is still needed to identify an efficient workflow and to make the phases of this process easily accessible for different professionals. And the purpose of this research is to contribute to enlarging the set of these case studies and test our workflow in the development of immersive dissemination experiences. Our workflow involved several steps and collaboration between different disciplinary areas. The first phase was the acquisition phase and involved an historical analysis and the acquisition of geometric survey data of the structure. And subsequently, we proceeded with 3D modeling to elaborate the final objects to be imported on the scene. And finally, we created a virtual experience capitalizing the outputs of the previous steps. Our case study is the chapel of Sant'Agata in Pisa, which is located at the back of the San Paolo Ripadarno church, in line with its apse. And the chapel dates back to the 12th century and has an octagonal floor plan with a cusp roof. There are various hypotheses about its original function, and it was originally surrounded by different structures that blocked its view to and from the public streets. The chapel remained unarmed after the World War II bombings, but all the surrounding buildings suffered serious damage, and so they had to be torn down. During the restoration after this bombing, archaeologists found paintings inside the chapel. We acquired cartographies and descriptions, and this material was used to identify the previous condition of the building context outside of the chapel. And in particular, descriptions were useful for defining a reconstruction hypothesis dated back to the 12th century because the only cartographies were available from the 16th century onward. Designing a virtual experience, we had to consider several aspects. So the game level structures, and the user interface design and interaction design. And each of these categories implies the detailed design of all the actors represented on the scene to maximize the efficacy and also the comfort of the virtual experience. Our experience is based on 4 levels. Each level contains a different environment with sittings of the chapel. 3 of these levels represent the outside of the chapel at the 12th, 18th, and 19th century, and 1 the inside of the chapel at the 21st century. We designed a 3rd person and a VR character as game modes, and we used a teleport navigation system to avoid side effects. We had to also take into consideration 2 different interactions, one with the main menu and the second interaction with informative panels that need to be placed along the levels. Starting from the digital survey assets, our workflow was based on the 3D modeling of the reconstruction hypothesis. And once all the 3D assets were ready, we used Unreal Engine to create the virtual experience project. In this software, we realized the game modes, the environments, the user interfaces, and interactions to get to the virtual experience. The digital survey data was collected by Federico Caprioli, Andrea Piemonte, Gabriella Caroti, Marco Giorgio Bevilacqua, and Lavinia Tenchini, as this team conducted previous research on the chapel back in 2016, realigning the frescoes visible in archival photos on the surface of the cusp of the chapel. And for the modeling process, we started from textual and iconographic information, and we realized the different building environments around the chapel. For modeling, we used Rhinoceros 3D, and we exported these building contexts as OBJ files. The virtual experience project was developed using Unreal Engine 5.4.4, and we used MetaQuest 3 for live previews of the developed experience. So different levels were created for each sitting outside or inside the chapel. And we imported the OBJ files inside Unreal Engine, but we needed to realize a new collision system because the automatic collision system consider all the model as a single object. So to avoid the movement outside the boundaries and to avoid the crossing of solid bodies, we had to set up new collisions. We also use landscape components to integrate soil and vegetation inside the scene. We started from the Unreal Engine template for our player character, which is a VR pawn. So the teleport motion system and base interactions were already working. But for other interactions, like overlapping interactions, we had to create a collision capsule around our VR pawn. We also had to realize widget components for the user interfaces. The first user interface is the main menu interface, which was designed as simple as possible with interactive button components that consent to move between the different levels or to quit the experience. Similarly, we realized a widget for information panels that need to be located inside of the scene to consent to the player to get all the information he needs to understand what he's looking at. So to realize an effective interaction with our user interface designs, we needed to use blueprints inside of Unreal Engine. So for the main menu, we started from a duplicate of the template main menu. And we proceeded with the substitution of the original widget with our widget. And we fixed the interaction with the menu, and the menu was binded to the left hand of the user. So the user always has the possibility to use the menu and to navigate through the different levels. So here we can see the working experience with the menu, and with the right hand, the user can select the different level which is going to visualize, moving from the 12th century, for example, to the 18th century, and so on with all the other levels and the possibility to quit the experience. The interaction with the informative panels is different because we needed to create a visual cue that tells to the user that info is available at a certain location. And we added the informative panel above this visual cue. The visibility of the widget of the informative panel is regulated by the proximity to the cue. So when the player character is near the info, the info point, you can visualize the informative panel. And this was realized by creating a second collision box related to the info visual cue. And when the collision box of the VR phone and the info queue overlap, the visibility of the panel is modified. And here we can see how it is working inside the 21st century, inside the chapel. And future developments of this research include the completion and publishing of the virtual experience, in particular adding all the informative panels. We designed 12 informative panels to be placed all along the levels. And we also will realize an alternative desktop version of the experience to be explored in first or third person. We also plan to realize a second survey campaign integrating the recent restoration works and the outside of the chapel as it is today. And in this second survey, we would like to try recent low-cost survey techniques like mobile apps to verify the final quality of the VR experience in comparison with traditional survey techniques. We identified the criticalities in the process because while the preliminary phases of this process are easy to manage for professionals in the architecture and construction field, the interactive part is quite complex because you need to have a knowledge of the software and the blueprint language. And the absence of blueprint templates for the specific purpose of cultural dissemination is a strong limitation to the development of this kind of experiences. So maybe the realization of a plugin that contains preset blueprints for this kind of experience would make it more accessible. Thank you for your attention.